So thank you very, very much for joining us today. I am Louise and I'm the events manager here at Cambridge Network. I have been there for about 15 years, and obviously during lockdown we had to suddenly learn how to use Zoom and Teams, and it's worked really well for us, and we're continuing to do a number of webinars, but we also do a number of face-to-face events as well. The theme is very generic. It's whatever businesses might be interested in. So that's businesses of all shapes and sizes. And yeah, we hope we get an audience for those. And so far, so good. So I'm delighted today to welcome to this webinar Anglia Ruskin University. Anglia Ruskin is a long-standing member of ours. They of Cambridge Network, and they also have a place on our board of directors. So really pleased to welcome them today. And thank you very much, I should say. This is the second of 2 webinars that we've been running with them this year, and hopefully we'll do some more with them as well. The first one, which was on accessing university expertise and funding, is actually on our YouTube channel, so I'll share the link in the chat as we go through, and we'll send that on afterwards as well if you want to catch up with that one. We've got about an hour to explore the subject of developing your business with students and graduates this morning. We've got a number of speakers, so I'll hand over to Julian Gibbs, a Partnership Development Manager, to start the session. So I think over to you, Julian.
Thank you, Louise, and thank you for the invitation to be with you all today. My colleague David, who's in the background, is going to move the slides on for me. So if we move to the first slide. So today's presenters are myself, my colleague Kirsty McKenzie, and we are 2 Partnership Development Managers based within our Research and Innovation Development Office. We work out of our sites across Cambridge and Chelmsford, and colleagues may know we've also got ARU Peterborough. And I've seen there's a couple of names on the call who I met at an event last week, so really nice to see them on the call today. We've also got presenters from our employability team, so you'll hear from Amanda Crouch and Zoe Mogridge, and you'll also hear from one of our lecturers within our Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, and that's Dr. Joe Harley. So those are today's presenters. I'm just going to go through a couple of slides, give some background and overview information about the university, talk about the schedule before I hand over to Kirsty. So the next slide, please, David. Just before I move on any further, all these slides will be available after today's session. I know that's a question that colleagues always ask. So we're going to talk about our research and services, what ARU can offer you and your business, then an introduction to our live brief programme, and then we're going to look at a case study for live briefs, which is the Cambridge Museum of Technology, and then an opportunity for you to ask us any questions, and we'll recap what we've gone through. And so any questions in the chat, as Louise has indicated, and any questions at the end as well. So we'll just move on. So this is a bit of an overview of who we are. So over 39,000 students studying across 4 main campuses. I touched on 3 of those. We've also got ARU London as well. A turnover of over 200 million. One of the top 10 mainstream universities in the country for graduate employment, and 5th in the country for employment and further study. We are a leading an entrepreneur apprenticeship provider, over 2,000 apprenticeships and over 300 employers. So if you're interested around what that looks like, then please get in touch. And we are one of the biggest degree apprenticeship providers in England. Below you will see there are some social media channel links. We've got ARU Business, Business ARU, and also our LinkedIn page. So please look at the activity which we're involved in, especially the LinkedIn showcase page, which gives an indication of some of the activities we're all involved in as a university. And please do follow us on Twitter. We move on to the next slide, which is a slide around our awards and recognition. We remain one of the top 350 institutions in the world, so that's the World University Rankings 2022. Recently, we've been very successful and fantastic to receive a Queen's anniversary prize for World Leader in Music Therapy. So if you're not aware of our music therapy research and the impact of that, please have a look. It's just superb. And obviously we've got other areas where we've got world leader in research and impact, which is fed into the what is called within university speak REF, the Research Excellence Frameworks. Details of that can be found on our website. We're a member of the Cambridge University Health Partners, and we are, as here, first in the UK for health and wellbeing in the Times Higher Impact Ranking. So some really outstanding work our academics are involved in around some of our research, and the recognition widely deserved. So please have a look at that at your leisure from our website. And the final slide from me is just a bit of an overview of our research and innovation. So we have a brand new strategy which was recently launched, which covers a 5-year period for our research and innovation. We have 3 overarching research themes, and then we have 6 research institutes. Let's go back on those research themes. We've got safe, inclusive communities, sustainable futures, health, performance, and well-being. And my role, and colleagues will touch on this shortly, my colleague Kirsty McKenzie will go into a bit more detail, is very much we're around business-led collaborative research and innovation projects. So that very much is engaging and liaising with external partners. Hence why it's so good to see friends and colleagues on the call who we've met recently at a number of events. So we're out and about quite a lot. Kirsty will go into a bit more detail about innovation vouchers and sort of PhDs in partnership, what that looks like. And obviously you're going to hear about the live brief program later as well. We're also heavily involved with knowledge transfer partnerships, a long-standing initiative from government. And again, more detail of that can be found on our website. And opportunities for you as businesses on the call to work with us. So please stay in contact with us using the social media links below. Reach out to us by email, and I will put my details in the chat as well. So Louise will have that. And of course, again, you'll have the copies of the presentation at the end and a full copy of the recording as well. So please stay in contact, and thank you for joining us today. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Kirsty McKenzie, who is one of our partnership development managers, and she oversees our HEMS, which is our health faculty. So over to Kirsty.
Yeah, thank you, Julian. So have we moved on to the next slide? Yes. So we offer a range of support for businesses and other organisations, which can include charities and local government authorities. So one area is academic consultancy. This is where ARU academics can provide expert guidance for your organisation in a range of areas across the university. We also offer contract research, which is slightly different, which is where we're trying to find out new information is being generated, and this can count towards academic publishing, and we can do that in conjunction with an external organisation that we work with. And through these projects, we have access to suitable facilities to best support your project across our 3 sites in Cambridge, Chelmsford and Peterborough. And we also have the ARISE Innovation Centres. So one of these is based in Chelmsford at our campus, and the other is in Harlow, which is on a kind of business site there. And this is where businesses with more of a medtech focus can set up offices, or you can have a virtual tenancy option there. And so these centres can provide access to specialist business support in a range of areas. There are lots of events run through these centres, including how to protect your intellectual property, how to apply for funding, lots of different areas really. So even if you're not a tenant, it's worth looking at these events because a lot of them are open for anyone to join. And these are usually advertised on the LinkedIn pages from the university or the ARISE hubs, and we can provide more details about that later. I'll move on to my next slide, which is how we can work together with external organisations. So one of the things we've already mentioned is knowledge transfer partnerships. We went into quite a lot of detail about these in our last webinar, which is available. I think we'll put the link in the chat. But briefly for people that weren't there or don't remember, these are a partnership between a business or a charity, a university and a graduate. And so we all work together on a project that's funded by Innovate UK, or mostly funded by Innovate UK, and lasts for 12 months to 2 years. So if you want to find out more about those, you can listen to our last webinar. We also work together on industry-funded PhDs. So this is where either where an organisation either fully or partially financially supports a PhD student along with ARU. And we can also arrange student placements and live briefs. One of my colleagues is going to talk about this in more detail, so won't talk about that too much. And we also offer innovation vouchers. So these vouchers allow ARU to start new relationships with businesses that we haven't worked with before, and other organisations as well, to work on an innovation-focused project. These can include things like product design, development or testing, or it could be to launch a pilot study, among many different areas. So these projects are really varied. So if you're interested in those, please do get in touch, because there's such a range of things that we can do with these. In most cases, the value of the project is up to £5,000, and 75% of that is covered by ARU, and 25% of the cost is covered by the organisation, which is either in-kind contribution, where you might do a guest lecture, or work with a workshop, or work with students. That can be in lots of different areas, or it can be cash contribution, or a mixture of cash or in-kind contribution, whichever works best for us both. And we also support with joint funding applications. So that's where ARU and an external organisation work together to get funding, such as Innovate UK funding or similar funding pots. And if you'd like to discuss any of the options we've mentioned, please get in touch with us using the business@aru.ac.uk email address, which is on the first slide. And I'll pass you over to Mandy now, who'll give you more of an introduction to LiveBrief.
Hello, so I'm Mandy Crouch and I'm the head of the employability team. So we are predominantly a student-facing service, but we work around providing opportunities for students and businesses to engage, because we recognise the real value that businesses bring to the development of our students and our recent graduates in terms of their work readiness and getting ideas around where they want their degree to take them beyond graduation. So we provide opportunities. We run the general careers fairs, which you're probably all familiar with, opportunities for businesses to come in and talk to students about their actual opportunities, what job opportunities they have, whether that's short-term work experience, whether that's full year out placements, as well as those graduate roles. We also work very closely with our academic colleagues around looking at how we can integrate employability and career development within the curriculum as well, so that LiveBriefs will be one of those, which my colleague will talk about in a little while, around that real opportunity for all students to engage with real world business projects within the curriculum, and it's not just reliant on them being able to source those independently or externally of their studies. So that's one of the key things. The other thing that we do offer is the opportunity for businesses to promote their opportunities via our online services. So we offer a free job advertising function to all of our students and our recent graduates and alumni. We also, through our ARU Temps service, offer end-to-end recruitment. So if there is, if you are interested in recruiting temporary staff, then we offer an end-to-end recruitment and payroll service, but also a number of different advertising packages as well, that may not necessarily involve the payroll, but you're looking for short-term projects to complete there. When at the bottom here is a link to our recruitment solutions. I'll put that in the chat as well. But that's a very quick overview of the different ways in which we support businesses and students to collaborate with each other. I'll now hand on to Zoe, who will talk a bit more in depth about the LiveBriefs element.
Lovely, thank you, Mandy, and welcome all. So next slide, please, David, thank you. So I'm part of the team that help deliver what's called LiveBriefs at Anglia Ruskin University. This is a programme where a LiveBrief is a curriculum-based approach to engaging students and assessing their learning by using current real-world activities devised and presented by professional partners in collaboration with academic staff. So as Mandy has already said, this is part of a curriculum innovation where we embed employability into the students' learning journey. So the students are undergraduates and they are first and second year. The delivery for our academic year 2021-22 saw 4,667 students participate in live briefs, and we worked with 80 live briefs partners in total. So we obviously gather feedback from our students, our academics and our professional partners, and the partners said that they had a very positive experience, and 95% indicated they would be likely or very likely to participate in a future live brief. The thing with a live brief is that we're looking for that authentic exchange where students obviously are working towards something, a project, piece of research that accrues to their assessment, but also the professional partner gains a benefit from the project themselves. So this is about an authentic exchange. Could I have the next slide, please? So the ARU Live Brief programme, as I say, it was implemented across the university in September 2020. So we're now in our third year of delivery. And as I say, it's for first and second year students. It is a university-wide strategic programme to embed employability into the curriculum. So as Mandy said, this isn't extracurricular, this is an expectation for the projects to be part of their module of learning. The programme sits across all 4 faculties, so that's the arts, humanities and social sciences, business and law, health education, medicine and social care, and science engineering. So we have a breadth of subject areas where live briefs sit and can be developed into projects that bring benefit, as I say, to the student, but also to the partner. That's part of the sustainability of the programme. We need to have those partnerships working in collaboration and benefit. Could I have the next slide, please, David? Thank you. So obviously the benefits to the students, because this is a curriculum programme, so it's part of a compulsory module, enabling all students equitable access to professional development opportunity during their studies. This is one of the core values to live briefs. It's also about early development of graduate career choice and understanding. So this is where, particularly for first years, we want students to start to gain a sense of themselves as burgeoning professionals, but also make that association between what they're learning through their academic studies to professional outcomes when they come to graduate as third years. So this is part of that journey from the start of students' academic careers to the end and then on to graduation. So the types of projects students have worked with are market research projects, user experience research. So our Faculty of Science and Engineering students have worked with developers on various projects. Strategic planning to raise organisation profiles via social media, so marketing and communication oriented projects. Generation of project design options, so working with our design courses, interior design, graphic design. They can also develop those user-led design thinking projects and usability testing. So again, a whole diversity of sectors that we've worked with, but also projects and project content. So next slide, please, David. So in terms of benefits to the professional partner, because as I say, this is part of a collaborative process where benefit has to be brought to our external partners. So it's an opportunity to engage with emerging student and graduate talent. So if you like, it's kind of a talent spotting exercise. So you get to work with very young minds, very young careers. Our student body tends to be younger demographics. Development of resources, research and innovation. So it's a way of really testing the water to explore perhaps a project or a piece of work that you're hoping to develop within your organisation. It's also about exploration and diversification of business practices. So again, it's an opportunity to have that point of exploration, work collaboratively, but also gain an understanding, again, of where you might want to take a particular piece of work. So we've got some quotes from previous partners. So one from Richard Davidson from Wilmot Dixon, saying it was really exciting for us to, as an employer, to see the dynamism the students have brought to the live brief. So I think this is definitely something that is experienced across other projects. And we've also worked with the director of the Churchill Archives, saying it was a real pleasure to work with students on a selection and interpretation of archival material. We learned a lot about our holdings and benefited enormously from seeing them through their eyes, or new eyes. So again, the diversity of projects are wide. Projects tend to sit within either our trimester 1, which is September to December, trimester 2, which is January through to about April, depending on where Easter falls. Projects can last of any duration. They can be 3 weeks, 6 weeks to the full 12 weeks of the trimester. The commitment levels tend to be an introduction session by the partner to the students, so it is student facing, and then providing constructive feedback once the students have completed the project and are handing the work back to their partner or their client at the end of the project. So that's it from me. I'll now hand over to Dr. Jo Harley, who actually ran a couple of really impactful projects with the Museum of Technology. Over to you, Jo.
Hi there, thanks Zoe. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk through a case study, particularly of a live brief that, well, 2 live briefs that I've ran with the Cambridge Museum of Technology. And it was undertaken with BA history students in 2021 and 2022. And in this section, I'll just go over a little bit about what we did, what we investigated, how we approached it, and ultimately some of the outcomes of this for both us and the employer as well. And ultimately, the thing I'll be stressing is that this was a really positive experience, both for myself, the students, and the project partner. We all learned a lot from it. And it allowed things like the project partner to be able to do things which they just simply didn't have time to look into, but they managed to get some inquisitive minds to be able to look into issues that they haven't had a chance to. So it was particularly with first year history students that we worked with, and it was embedded into a module which is kind of like a how-to module of history. And as part of this, we did look at things like how archives work and museums and the heritage sector and things like this. And so a key part of this was that we wanted to get the students out there working with heritage partners. And so working with someone like the Cambridge Museum of Technology was really ideal for them. And as I said, we worked on this project twice, and it's been fairly similar iterations of the same thing, but we're looking at different target groups. So for the first, for instance, the students wrote a report on how to better engage and get more 18 to 25-year-olds into this particular museum. The reason being is because this particular demographic was pretty underrepresented in their museum. And then the next year we did something similar, but focusing on women or people of colour, because again, this was a demographic that was underrepresented there. So the project was addressing a real-world problem that the curator had identified in the museum, but just hadn't really had the chance to address properly. So the students were looking at the barriers that were stopping these groups from entering the museum, and also coming up with ideas on solutions as how to do this. So the students were split into groups to do this, and in order to do this, there were several different elements of it. So myself as lecturer, I identified some reading for the students to work through as part of this to underpin this and to learn more about it. But they also conducted their own research into this, their own primary research. So for instance, they set up surveys to survey these target audiences to find out what essentially was putting these groups off the museum, and trying to suggest different ways of getting them into there. And we also brought in various experts as well to be interviewed as to what their feelings were and why these groups were underrepresented. And so through this then, it was both primary and secondary research. We were able to come up with some really interesting findings as to what the barriers were, and some ideas on how to do this. And the final aspect that the students did was a presentation which was given to the curator, some really excellent ones, and a 4,000 word report which outlined their suggestions and things like this. And overall, the experience was really impressive, I must say. So, for instance, a number of the students achieved much higher marks in this assessment than they did in other things, which shows just how good some of their suggestions were in the report. Their suggestions for addressing these problems were also wide-ranging, and many of them were genuinely innovative. So, for instance, we had ideas floating around about opening up rooms for study sessions and events to be able to get more of these groups into the museum. Another suggested something like a student group ticket discount in order to get some of the younger audience in. And this one was really, really innovative, because you get things like family tickets when you go to museums, but never anything like a group student discount. So this is something new and really exciting, and the museum has implemented this as a result of this. Other suggestions were generally a little bit more obvious, such as engaging more on social media, better advertising and things like this. But on the whole, the curator was pretty happy to hear these sort of suggestions as well, simply because it reiterates what she thought needed doing as well, and it adds further evidence towards that strategy needing to be applied. For the students themselves, it allowed them to learn new skills and apply them into the world of work in a way that was relevant to their studies. Some of these skills were pretty middle of the road and the sort of things that they would have developed in other ways, such as communication skills. But many of the other ones were things that simply they wouldn't really get as much chance to do in a history degree, for instance, such as looking at marketing and things like this. But what it ultimately meant, though, is that our graduates, our ARU graduates, are a lot more ready for the world of work than many other ones that come from other universities, because they've had that experience of the world of work and haven't just done their degrees. And of course, there were mutual benefits as well for the project partner, who was really, really positive about how it worked. So as I said, we've done 2 years with the Museum of Technology because the curator was really happy with how the first one went. And the way she phrased it was that she got into, and I quote it, a curatorial rut as to what she was doing, and she was quite understaffed. So the fact that she was able to get some students working on an issue that has been ongoing for a while and she just hasn't had time for was really, really useful for her and the museum. And as I said, some of the suggestions were genuinely innovative, and so these were put into practice, and it really, really did help. So overall then, it was a really beneficial experience for all involved. I learned a lot doing it, the students learned a lot, they were able to develop a lot of skills, and also the project partner was really, really enthusiastic and learned a lot throughout the process as well. So back to you, Zoe, I think.
Yes, thank you, Joe. So next slide, please, David. So these are our contact details. So if you are interested in exploring a possible project idea, please do email us on this, on the attached email address. And we also do have on our website a web page which has more details about how the programme runs, and also case studies, which is the link, that's the second link on this slide. So as Joe said, you know, we want our students to have sort of that professional development working on really authentic projects. So again, the way we want to collaborate and integrate learning with professional development and experience is impactful for all partners. So I think that's the end for me. Obviously, I think Louise is happy to take questions, but thank you so much for listening, and we'll be very happy to take questions, or please do contact us through the email address livebriefs@aru.ac.uk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would say my internet just crashed for about a minute at the end of Joe's presentation. Did everybody else see that? Or was it just me who disappeared? So anyway, have we got any questions in the chat at all? Yes, we have. Can the students support business opportunity remotely, or do they tend to come to the site, or is it a mix? I don't know who would want to ask that one.
Shall I answer that in terms of live briefs? So we do have partners who work with us virtually, particularly obviously given, you know, time constraints for organisations. So that is something that we can do. What tends to happen is the introduction sessions can be done we tend to use Teams, but as well as the feedback. So remotely, yes. obviously what we really love is people in the room, because that's where the best exchanges can happen between the students and the organisation. But we can and do work remotely.
Thank you very much for that one. Do you know how much what the commitment is like for the business side of things? I know the project seems to run over a year, but how many visits do the students make, or is it sort of customizable depending on the...
Okay, so for live briefs, these tend to be shorter projects. So they tend to sit within our trimesters or terms. So projects can sit within our autumn trimester, trimester 1, which starts mid-September to mid-December. And the projects can be, as I say, 3, 6, 12 weeks in duration. And then projects can also run in trimester 2, which is our spring trimester, which starts kind of mid-January to kind of mid-April time. And again, projects can be of any duration. These tend not to be placements, they tend to be lighter touch. So we don't expect students to go onto site. It really is a collaborative project that is run within the teaching framework of the module. So hence, it's a lighter touch in terms of the employer or partner coming, giving an introduction, explaining who the organisation is, what it does, why this piece of work is important, what the students are contributing to. So it's giving that sense, that professional contextualisation. And then at the end, once the students have produced the work and the partners received it, providing constructive feedback. So students get, again, that learning opportunity, but also it starts a conversation between the student and, as I say, the client. So these are shorter projects. And they're negotiated. I facilitate those, what we call design consultations with the module leaders. So the project is co-designed between the academic, myself and the organisation, just to make sure everyone's happy with the outcomes for the project. So there's a process before the start of the project runs, and then there's a handback. But we don't expect students necessarily to be on site. This is very much a lighter touch than placement.
Yeah, and just to add to that through my example, yeah, I found I've also done a third one with another organisation, but I haven't had a chance to talk about that. But I've tended to find that it's a little bit more contact towards the start and the end. So, for instance, the ones I've done, the 3, they've run over 12 weeks, and generally speaking, there's been the introduction sessions, and then it's kind of over to us to do the research and the work and that, and then right by towards the end, then it's the sort of presentations and the project report and sending that back sort of for feedback and to get into that. So, for instance, with the Museum of Technology, it involved about half a day at most for the curator at the start, who took us around the museum, showed the students about it, talked about it, and we introduced the project. Then I kind of took it off and guided the students throughout the next few weeks, and then towards the end there was the presentations for a couple of hours and then the project reports. So it's not hugely draining on time at all, I wouldn't say, because a lot of the time the lecturer takes this on, and of course the work is on the students to do this. So it's not, it will vary from project to project, but it's not too taxing on time.
Right, we've got a number of questions in the chat as well. So Nick has asked about 5 questions. I don't know if you can see them. I'll read them out if you can't. Can you explain the timelines of the project? Is there a start and finish deadline? When can we contact you with a proposal? And if he was to contact you next week, what would happen next? What's the process? So lots of questions in there. Read at top speed.
Yes, yeah, I've got the chat here. So
Lovely.
Thanks, Nick, for your question about live briefs. So there is a start and finish deadline. So that is part of the key dates that are discussed with the partner and the academic. The start tends to be at the beginning, 2-3 weeks of the trimester, and the finish usually at the completion end of the trimester. So the start finish deadlines depend on the project, but there will be a start and an end. You can contact us anytime with a proposal. In terms of when it's best, we're obviously coming towards the end of this academic year's delivery. So I'm very happy to look at any, or my team members or colleagues would be very happy to look at proposals for next academic year. So in terms of capacity, we'll probably be looking at next academic year, so that'll be September this year through to December, and then spring would be January 2024 to April 24. But the sooner we have the conversations, the better, because we're like matchmakers. So if we understand what you're looking for, we can then locate and find the appropriate module. So what happens next is, if you want to send us a line, we can start that conversation. Obviously, it depends on what you need doing. If you need something urgently, then obviously we need to make sure that the timelines can work for the organisation. So because we are very much, obviously, whilst there's diversity and flexibility, we are tied to the academic kind of year timetable. So be very happy to look at projects, particularly for next academic year. But do contact us. We're happy to have a chat to explore other options. And as I say, we work across 4 faculties, so there might be different opportunities. I hope that answers your question, Nick.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, it did.
Thanks, Nick. Mandy's got her hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because sometimes exactly that, the academic timetable doesn't necessarily work in terms of the projects that organisations may well have. So one of the things that Zoe and the team will do is, if it doesn't fit with your timeline, there are other opportunities, and that's certainly the work that the wider employability team can look at in terms of whether there's a work experience opportunity, maybe 1 or 2 students to just come in and work on a short-term project with you. So it's not linked necessarily to the live briefs, but it is still providing some of that student input to a particular project for you. So as Zoe said, I think that probably the best bet at this point is to talk to Zoe about your project, your idea, and then we can look at what the other alternatives are if the timeline doesn't work for you, because there is normally something that we can come up with.
Excellent, thank you. So I will probably contact you at the email address provided, which is the livebriefs@ARU AC UK, and explain kind of. I mean, it's not really hard deadlines, but perhaps look at the option for if there's any opportunity short term, or maybe then the September timelines. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you for that. We've got a question from Rebecca. I don't know who this would be directed at. It's, can you tell me more about how we can offer some students an apprenticeship programme to develop skills directly in the business while gaining their qualifications? And that's based on insurance.
So I touched on apprenticeships, and I don't sit within the apprenticeship team. So this is one of those classic examples where I'm going to say to Rebecca, please write to me, and I'll introduce you to the relevant person within the organisation. So I think that's the best way forward. Interestingly, I actually support the Faculty of Business and Law, and within that we have students who are looking at obviously banking and finance opportunities. So that's quite opportune. So Rebecca, please email over to me. I'll introduce you to the relevant colleague. But thank you for the question.
Brilliant, thank you. And if you need me to send on email addresses or something, I can do that. Question for Mark. Would it be possible to meet up for a chat in Cambridge? I'm not quite sure which one of you wants to take this up, to discuss potential projects relating to helping non-native speakers with academic writing and a resource for history students and teachers. I could do Zoom, prefer in person.
I think I'm happy to take that for live briefs. Absolutely, Mark. Happy to chat either in Cambridge. I'm based at the Cambridge campus, or to chat over Zoom. I think the starting point is what projects you need, and it's the same for all professional partners. It starts with what you're seeking. Helping non-native speakers with academic writing. Well, we do have our English language subject areas, so this could sit with history, or it could actually sit with our English language degree course and subject areas. So I think the starting point is your project, and then part of my job and my colleagues' roles is to make sure then we can locate the best subject areas, academics, for the project to sit within potentially. So yeah, please do drop us a line on the live briefs email. What I'll do is probably drop it in the chat, but happy to have a chat either in person or in Zoom to discuss those two particular projects. And obviously I work very closely with Joe locating projects for history students. So again, very happy. I also have a colleague who works within the School of Education. So this might be something for our education degree students to also consider as a project, but it'd be great to get a greater understanding of what it is you're seeking. So happy to have a chat, and I'll just drop the email address into the chat here.
That sounds great. Thanks very much indeed. I'm in Cambridge, so yeah, Cambridge won't be a problem.
Perfect, lovely.
Fantastic. Do we have any more questions? Last chance. I don't think I've missed any. Yeah, it strikes me that these projects, and also going back to the KTP session that we did, it develops a lot of transferable skills, doesn't it? Just like from Joe's talk, I was just writing down, wow, yes, you've got the research, the interviewing, presenting, surveys, marketing, you mentioned, communication skills, all sorts.
This is it, it's about the diversity, and the diversity is driven by our professional partners, but also it demonstrates the breadth of learning and teaching within our degree courses. And it is really important that students gain a sense of their own professional selves, even at not even emergent career professionals, but at the very early stages, which is why the Live Brief programme sits with first and second years. So this is a really key piece of development, but although we have to stick to the talk timetable for the academic year, that's the only thing we're kind of constrained by. The projects are very wide-ranging, and yeah, they don't have to have an asset at the end. You don't have to have a design piece at the end. It can be research oriented, as Joe has demonstrated, through to strategic planning, through to creation of social media posts. We've had that as well, so it is very diverse.
Fantastic. Right, I don't have any more questions. Are there any more bits and pieces that anybody wants to say to wrap up, or to highlight, or you think you may have missed? Please do so now.
I'll ask a favour, Louise. Could you drop at some point the Live Brief email address into the chat? Because I'm on Zoom, I can't get to my emails to do the copy.
Right.
So that would be amazing. Thank you.
See if I can do that. If not, what I will do is send an email around afterwards, including all of the different links and things. And sometimes I'll take out the links from the presentation, so it's in the bulk of the email. So we'll try and put everything together there. Oh, Julian, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just to sort of pick up on a couple of points, Louise, is to thank you for inviting us to work with you over these two sessions.
You're welcome.
And to build up the relationship we have with you. So I'm really appreciative of that. Thank you to attendees who have found the time. It's never easy to find the time. I appreciate that, especially for small business people. So a big thank you as well. And just to echo what colleagues have said, do reach out to us. All the details are there in these slides. Follow us on social media and see what we're up to. There's lots of other activity there. You can see it gives a good breadth of understanding of what the university is involved in, and keep the conversation going with us. And there may be ways we haven't picked up today that you might think after, that's something we would like to ask one of the colleagues about. We're happy to pick that up, and very much work with you to sort of solve some of those challenges you might have. But again, a big thank you. And slides will be available. I know you always say, this, Louise, and I think I've said it for the third time.
I think we've covered that now.
I think we've covered it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but they are available. So we look forward to working with you all, and thank you again, Louise.
No, you're more than welcome. Thank you, everybody, and hopefully we'll do something again with Anglia Ruskin soon. In some of my initial discussions, we were doing something face-to-face rather than on Zoom at the premises in East Road. So we'll pick up those discussions as well, and hopefully we can go forwards with that. So yeah, that leaves me just to say, thank you, Kirsty, for putting the email address up for the live briefs. Thank you very much for that. And thank you everybody for coming. We'll send around all the stuff as we've said, but brilliant. Thank you once again for an excellent session. Bye everybody.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, bye.